You know that surreal feeling you get when you are in a place you've never visited before and you come across someone familiar? Well, I just had that experience here at the School of Divinity at Yale. Alexander Crummell's portrait is mounted in the School of Divinity because he actually attended Yale from 1840 to 1841. But the reason I recognized Crummell's image immediately is in part because he had a Liberia connection and a really very interesting family history. Both his parents were very active in the African American community in New York City in the early 1800s. His paternal grandfather was Temini from Sierra Leone. Alexander's father, being aware of his father's African origin, made sure that the children saw themselves as belonging to this broader community of African people from both the continent and the diaspora. Boston Crummell, Alexander's father, was very instrumental in the establishment and maintenance of several organizations focused on Black self-determination in the U.S. He was a founder of a group called the Phoenix organization. He was involved with the African Free School, which his son attended. And there was a newspaper, the very first Black newspaper in America, Freedom's Journal, that was operated out of the Crummell house. One of the two founding editors of the Freedom's Journal was a man named John Brown Rosworm, who emigrated to Liberia and founded the first newspaper in Liberia, the Liberia Herald. And so it was Alexander's familiarity and relationship with Rosworm that ultimately led him to Liberia. So after his 2 years at Yale, Crummell went to New York, was ordained as an Episcopal priest, and at some point he went to the UK. He was then enrolled in Cambridge, and he is the first Black student officially listed as a graduate of Cambridge University. So after matriculating from Cambridge, Crummell then moved to Liberia. And because Rosworm had been governor of Maryland in Africa, he settled in Capalmas, and he was the rector of St. Mark's. And eventually, during his 20 years in Liberia, he then moved to Monserrato County, and he was rector of Grace Episcopal Church in Clay Ashland. Unfortunately, his story has been erased in Liberia. A lot of people growing up don't know. But he is a really very significant historical figure and deserves to be rediscovered by Liberians. Several books have been written about him, two of them by the same author. After Crummell moved to Liberia, he was followed there by a lifelong friend who was equally important in a historical sense, and that was Henry Highland Garnett. Garnett and Crummell had attended the African Free School in New York. They then went for further education to a school in New Hampshire that was opened up to serve people of African descent. But the townsfolk attacked and destroyed the school. so they left and went back to New York. But that traumatic experience had really helped to bond them. Garnett is most remembered in American history for a speech he gave, which called on those who were enslaved in the South to rebel. That speech by Garnett is considered the most important given by an African American in that period. Henry Highland Garnett was eventually appointed as a U.S. representative in Haiti, but then he returns to the U.S. and becomes disenchanted. And at that point, his daughter was operating a school in Brewerville. Garnett was aged and ill and needed care. Crummell is important for several reasons, but one of them is that he was a really important Pan-Africanist thinker, like his mentor, Rusworm. And so when Crummell moves back to the U.S., he becomes pastor of a church in Washington, D.C. Crummell attracted a number of young intellectuals because his ideas were pretty unique in some ways. Having lived in Liberia, he had this broader sense of the African world. And so Crummell became a mentor to the renowned W.E.B. Du Bois. As we say in Liberia, you pull rope and rope pull bush. And seeing this portrait of Crummell today led me down this path of connecting him to Rusworm and his connection to Garnett. And all three of these major figures have a connection to Liberia. And I hope you will discover them by maybe reading a little bit more on them. All right, take care.